Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with Good Morning Portugal show, a live stream and the podcast. The second podcast within about 12 hours. Last night, 12 hours ago, we were just going live on this channel to talk about the resignation of the PM. It was a good conversation, but that perhaps asked more questions than it answered. We'll continue our reaction and investigation into what it might mean for us expats, immigrants, foreigners, estrangeiros here in Portugal in the wake of the resignation of Antonio Costa, who is facing corruption allegations and quit yesterday afternoon. A full statement from him, I believe. He's offered resignation, which has been accepted by the president, and I believe he'll make another statement tomorrow about his future. And therefore, of course, we'll learn more about the future of the country as he departs his post. What are your thoughts on that? Who's in this morning, I wonder? Good turnout last night for the webinar. We stopped doing these evening shows because not many people used to watch. A lot of people watched last night. Yeah, this is one of many people's first thoughts about the PM going. So now they say, who is saying this? Who are they? Kendall, good morning to you, Kendall Lampkin. So they now say NHR may survive after all with the Prime Minister gone. So it could be a golden visa scenario, could it not? Where it's always going to be going. Let's get that straight about the NHR. It was never a permanent fixture, and it was ending for each individual after 10 years, wasn't it? And I think there was a gradual political process to see the NHR into oblivion or extinction at some point, and it was thought that it would be dying by the end of this year and be gone by the 31st of December. Now we're not so sure. Maybe it's a bit like the thrashing around or the Terminator-esque ending of the Golden Visa, where it just kept getting up and running after you down the street into an empty building or up onto a roof, ultimately extinguished, but not after a good fight. So maybe you're right, Kendall. Maybe that's what will happen with the NHR as well. We'll keep you up to date with that. Something that else came to light that I was a little bit embarrassed not to know more about was the IUC change, the single circulation tax. Doesn't really explain what that is, does it? But it sparked a lot of protests around Portugal. Streets of Porto, for example, according to the is this the BNN? Their logo is not too great, actually, in explaining. Oh, yeah, BNN network I'm looking at here. Proposed IUC increase sparks nationwide protests in Portugal. Streets of Porto, Portugal have witnessed a rising wave of discontent as a proposed increase in the IUC triggers widespread protest. The tax targeting vehicles prior to 2007 forms part of the 2024 state budget. Strategic changes in taxation rules, while the government has incorporated a safeguard clause ensuring the tax increase cannot exceed 25 euros per year. Critics view this proposal as myopic, good word, and detached from the reality of many citizens, particularly in rural areas where public transportation is scarce. Now, you could argue, couldn't you, that politicians are not often very interested in people in rural areas. Not many politicians live there. They are the metropolitan elites, aren't they? They're not necessarily very sensitive to the needs of people in the countryside. And let's say if, like me, you drive an old banger and you arguably need to get it around, I think those are going to be some of the people worst hit by this, with the encouragement of greener vehicles, the newer and greener, whoever's definition that is, the newer and greener your vehicle, the less it sounds like you're likely to pay for the IUC. I think Bobby's got something to say on this when he joins us at 9 o'clock this morning. And Joel Miliagic, do you remember him from the Man Cave? Still a Man Cave veteran stalwart. He was with us in the early days of the Man Cave. He gave me his experience. I had him on to talk about his view as a Portuguese man about the general temperature. I think he took advantage of the situation and gave a lot of personal opinion and did quite a lot of PM bashing and political bashing last night. But we got a sense of how he felt, that's for sure. And he was suggesting that his IUC, his road tax might go up 400%, which he's not entirely happy about, as you can imagine. So yeah, Baddie's in, Ocean Dweller, Aviva, hello. How are you feeling? I'm not fully recovered from last weekend. I doubt that you are, Aviva. Hope you're well. And I believe you met up with the coach, the good coach, and Mrs. T last night. Good to see Kendall here. Good morning to you, Kendall. I think last night's webinar switched a few more people onto the fact that you do a live stream in the morning about Portugal. Good morning, Portugal. Whoa, that's interesting. Yeah, only been here for 3 years now, with 1 million views on YouTube, it turns out. Anyway, good morning to you, Andy and Jess. Deagle's in as well. T-Duck, of course, with some cracking dad jokes. They were excellent yesterday. I'm sure they will be today as well. And Coach Turner. Okay, Doctor, I've been sent this by somebody as well. Doctor, I'm depressed because of the weather. Is the worst weather for 30 years? Have you tried supergluing yourself to the street? Oh, naughty. Bom dia todos. Tudo bem? Wonderful to meet Ocean Dweller yesterday for a coffee in Funchal. I love it when I hear of Gumpers meeting up around the world. Did you get a selfie, you guys? The Gumper community is a strong one and certainly greater than the sum of its parts. Yes, second that emotion. Thank you very much, Coach T, Mrs. T, and Aviva, getting together in Funchal, Madeira. Amazing, huh? Heading home today, sadly, but we'll definitely be back. So it sounds like it's not your first visit, is it? I remember your Levada ramble that you sent to us before, Coach T. This is at least your second visit, is it not, to Madeira? God's got tip of the day then from you, Coach T. We've had 2 days of leg training. So let's look at the arms. Check out those guns, missus. Press-ups are a great way of working several muscle groups and don't have to be difficult. It's all right for you to say. Are we getting the rest of that? Or okay, I think that's it. I think that's it for this morning. Maybe more. Yeah, get down on your front and try a press up. Go steady, and if it hurts, stop. Of course, you don't have to do the full press up. You can just lift the upper part of your body from the waist, from the hips, can't you? Thank you very much, Coach Turner, for that. So muscle groups will be worked by doing press ups with a partner of your choice. Always seek permission, and they don't have to be difficult. Don't have to end badly, the old press ups. Thank you very much, Coach T. Good morning, Coach. I forgot to go to the gym yesterday. That makes 7 years in a row. Naughty T-Duck. Morning, T-Duck. I don't go to a gym either. That's interesting, isn't it? You don't have to go to a gym. And you do see more and more of these routines that just use the stairs or a chair, things that you've got at home. Well, not everyone's got stairs at home. Most people have got a couple of steps, if not a full set. So they don't end up with Is it bungalow legs? Is that the condition you spoke about before, Coach T? Bungalow legs or bungalow posture without the stairs, without that sort of exercise. And that's what a lot of oldies do, isn't it? Get a bungalow so they don't have to go upstairs, of course, which you can understand from one point of view. But in another sense, it doesn't help. And Coach Turner, shock horror, doesn't go to the gym. Not everyone has to. You can stay fit. What I've enjoyed about going to the gym for the first time in my life is the hacking a capability of some of the machines there, which if I had to improvise with bags of sugar or tins of beans, I think it would be quite difficult. And the whole ritual of going, easy for me because it's just around the corner. That said, I haven't been for a little while. Yeah, it's just around the corner for me. And I quite like the culture in a way that I didn't think I would. Anyway, do you go to the gym? Can you actually, gym recommendations are very good for people making a new life here in Portugal. Great way to meet people, great way to stay fit, of course, and lose the Portugal 15 pounds at least that you're likely to put on when you first get here. And I would thoroughly recommend Dino's gym around the corner from me in San Martino de Porto. But the key, it certainly makes a difference if you can walk there. Any good gym recommendations? Certainly not from Coach Turner or T-Duck this morning with the Bom Dia Alegria Gumpers from T-Duck at 7:56 this morning. Deep thought. And we nearly forgot that one yesterday. I featured it at the end of the show, but I think I'm going to go back to Friedrich Hayek. Thank you very much for that yesterday. I'm just scrolling back there now. You see me scrolling, they hate it. Right. the deep thought of the day yesterday is the more the state plans, the more difficult planning becomes for the individual, says Friedrich A. Hayek, who had considerable influence on a variety of political movements of the 20th century. Who doesn't like a political movement first thing in the morning? I think the PM is not too keen on the amount of political movement he's been experiencing in the last 48 hours or so. Hayek had considerable influence on a variety of political movements of the 20th century, and his ideas continue to influence thinkers from a variety of political backgrounds today. His deep thought of the day today, thanks to T-Duck, is: I am certain, however, that nothing has done so much to destroy the juridical safeguards of individual freedom as the striving after the mirage of social justice. My goodness. The myth and legend. I was looking up Pandora's box. And I know that sounds really bad, doesn't it? Saying I've been looking up Pandora's box this morning. It's true. I can't deny it. And yeah, myth and legend. Is social justice always going to be a mythical matter and something that we can aspire towards? It's a bit like world peace, isn't it? This is an ideal, if not an ideal to which we can strive, if not be perhaps a little bit misled by the idea that it will ever happen. Is that cynical of me? Maybe it's what I've been writing about this morning. I've been writing about Portuguese politics this morning. I am certain, however, that nothing has done so much to destroy the juridical, I'm going to go with, safeguards of individual freedom as the striving after the mirage of social justice. I think we get the cut of Hayek's jib reading that this morning, squirreling away those dad jokes this morning. They're good. They're good. I can see they're good. Bon dia. A todos feliz carta. He's got the day right. Well done, James. Como va todos? How are you doing, everybody? From James. Did you know Slug and James are friends? We proved that at the weekend. Did we not? Great to see James. Gonna have to leave around 9 this morning. Appointment in Mafra. Watch out for those low-flying bats in Mafra. Yeah, the palace is beautiful, says T-Duck. There's also a really good Japanese restaurant there that makes the best ramen. Oh, I've got to take my kids there. They love a bit of ramen. Okay, that's a good tip. Stick it on the list of things to do in Portugal. The best ramen, apparently, allegedly, Japanese restaurant near the Palace of Mafra. Have you got a name for that, T-Duck? I wonder. It's not called Best Ramen Restaurant, I don't suppose. But I guess if you type that into Google, you might find it. Best Ramen Palace Mafra. You might end up finding that. T-Duck may give us the exact name. Bon dia, Carl and Gumpers from a damp but nice 7-degree Belfast. Made nicer, of course, Deagle, by having all those Springsteen tickets. Who is steering the ship, seeing that as Antonio, I don't think, as well as all the allegations, I don't think he's going to appreciate your sex change. Oh, I don't know. Maybe he does. But Antonio, I've got his full name scrolling on the screen here. We call him Antonio Costa, don't we? Or Senora Costa, or the PM. And you'll see his full name on the screen in just a moment. Antonio Costa, let the public vote. He was a poor leader. In Deagle's estimation there. A lot of people glad to hear that he was leaving, it has to be said. But that's politics for you, isn't it? Maybe not so much with the president. I think there will be people who are glad to see the president go, the more you learn about the nuances of Portuguese politics. But maybe not as many as seem to be glad to see Antonio da Costa go, who was entering into his third term. He's been in the job for 8 years. And I mean, talk about a fish going off after 3 days. Most politicians have gone off, haven't they, after 8 years? He says he won't be reapplying for the job. My guess, and from what I was discerning last night, receiving a few comments, is that he's going to end up a nice plum job in the EU somewhere. Let's see if that happens. Antonio Luis Santos da Costa is his full name. Deagle, not a fan by the look of it. Andy Klein, and congratulations to you, Andy Klein. You live in the best municipality in the country. Aveiro has been crowned. Oh, I hate a pop-up. Most pop-ups I hate or struggle with. Hate's a strong word, isn't it? Yes, fair enough. Aveiro has been crowned as the best municipality in the country this year, following winning the award in both 2019 and 2020. So well done, Aveiro. Good morning to you, Andy. Jess is in as well. Hey, Jess, how are you doing? Hola, bon dia todos. Nice to see Kendall here. Owen, good news. Do I roll that VT, Owen, of your good news up there in Ponte Lima? Congratulations, mate. Hola, bon dia. And a bon dia, Thunder CA from James. I've done the self-guided tour. One can barely fathom the size of that building. That's not the ramen restaurant. That's the Palace of Mafra. Bon dia todos from Aviva. Baddy's in as well. Nice to see you over the last couple of days. Bon dia from volcanic Iceland. Thinking my escape route will be to Portugal if we need to evacuate. Is it that serious over there, Baddy, with this? Who is this Facebook user who keeps posting these ridiculous long messages onto my screen? Go, poo off, whoever you are. Is it? Oh, it's what sort of name is that? Likop. I've never seen that before. Likop Patricia. Seriously, Likop Patricia. I don't think anyone is going to be parting with 1,800 euros for you this morning. Just please stop it. Go elsewhere. The secret has long been out about Madeira, says Aviva to the coach. And let's see, people who can't afford a new car and struggle to make ends meet will now have the tax on their old car significantly increased. This is going back to that IUC story. And those who can afford new cars will pay less. Yes, doesn't seem fair. What do you think about that, Dougie? Oh, good morning to you, Doug. We'll squeeze in a 2-minute taster from you. 2-minute taster. And did you know Slug and James friends, our friends, says, no, this is to you. Hey, Carl, did you know Slug and James are friends? Happy now. I'm reading out the whole thing. Pete is saying this to you. But old cars like Gary's are more likely to both cause and be in an accident, and they pollute far more. Okay. Or they pollute locally rather than remotely, Peter, if I may say so. I make it a priority to live near a gym. Mine is across the street. That is very good, isn't it? And last couple of comments before we go to Jackie, who's with us, because I know she wants to respond to the PM resignation news as well. Yeah, Andy, delighted that Aveiro have won. Roll VT, says Owen. Yeah, Andy, delighted that Aveiro have won that crown again. It seems for the third time. Let's give her a nice big round of applause and bring her onto the screen. Good morning to you, Jackie from Expats Portugal. How are you this morning?
Good. I'm really good, actually.
Really good. Why so especially? You're always cheerful and sparkly on our screen. What has put an extra pep in your step this morning?
My husband says I haven't had my coffee, but I'm cheerful here, but not cheerful at home. I get my coffee. I'm very cheerful.
Okay, can he not pass you a copy?
He will, hopefully soon.
So that'd be great. Right. So yeah, you're just naturally high on life this morning. Is that what we can?
Well, two things. I think the government collapsing is, of course, in many ways a tragedy, but it's the glass half full, glass half empty. The way I see it is that corruption has been uncovered, and it's being dealt with. And it seems more successfully than I've experienced corruption being dealt with in the U.S.
Well, let's hold on just a moment, because let's note that this is an investigation.
You're right.
And finding out about the investigation has prompted the PM to resign. So we don't know the findings just yet, and we'll presume innocence until he is proven guilty. But it sounds like you like the process, that the mere whiff of it has caused him to leave his job or begin that process anyway. I take it you appreciate that those sort of wheels can be in motion in this country.
Yeah, I mean that an interrogation could have an effect. Yeah. Because sometimes it doesn't feel like it has any effect where I'm coming from. I mean, in the U.S., it doesn't seem to mean much. Right. And so I think that's a positive. The fact that, me personally, that the NHR is continuing, because I have 2 young adult children who, that meant a lot to them, whether or not they could become residents. I mean, that was a significant amount of their income being taken.
Yes,
as Americans. And they were saying, look, that affects our ability to travel, that was a big chunk of change for both of them.
Okay, so let me guess. And is this a conversation? I haven't had a chance to look. Is this a conversation that's now taking place over at Expats Portugal, that Antonio Costa resigning will at least mean a stay of execution for the NHR? And that's what your most recent comment there and about affordability of Portugal is based on, that the NHR may not be axed by the end of this year.
I think that's going to have a huge impact, because I talk to a lot of Americans who want to move to Portugal, and a lot of them are saying, now I don't know if it's quite as affordable for me, because that's my pension, and thank you. And there's a huge my
That's the
coffee.
coffee, right?
Yes,
Oh,
God
bless
bless.
him. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ray.
So, if that's is going to be a huge chunk of your pension,
Yeah.
you're going
Yeah.
to think twice about
Yeah.
coming to this country.
But how are people talking about it, Jackie? This is a delay, isn't it? I mean, the NHL was always, it ends for everybody, doesn't it, after 10 years? It was a political move to end it sooner rather than later. And you think, what, if there's a delay now? It's almost like a dance, isn't it? It's like a little waltz, or no, more of one of those more jerky dances where, okay, we're moving to Portugal. No, we're not. We're not moving because the NHL is going. Oh, yes, we are moving again now. And it's, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, it would appear at the moment. What's your guess then in terms of delay with this? And what do you anticipate happening for other people? They'll hasten their plans again now, will they?
I think they will. I think that we're going to get a big influx of people now from the UK and the US.
Right.
Because everybody understands what a privilege this is. When something's taken away, even briefly, you really start to reevaluate what a privilege it is.
You
and
never appreciate the water till the well runs dry. That's the old saying, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are going to say, wait, let's move forward, and let's move forward quickly.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us, especially the retirees like myself, like my kids are like, Mom, I said, you have it for 10 years. Me and your father could be gone in 10 years. So, I mean, yeah, so you don't know what 10 years holds. It seems so far in the future.
Yeah.
Of course, it ends up coming up on us very quickly.
Yes,
but I do think that there's going to be a lot of movement. I mean, a lot from the UK and the US. And I think that this is a very, very positive thing for people that, took a big pause. They're going to move immediately.
Yep.
That's what I would do.
All right. Others are saying the NHR had nothing to do with our decision to move here. And certainly for those for whom it did, as you're saying there, Jackie, those who've been put off just recently will be maybe getting in touch with Expats Portugal again later on today to bring their plans back onto the table. Very interesting. Thank you very much. Any other implications?
Well, what I was thinking is the NHR, to that nice lady's point, I believe, we weren't even aware that we had applied for it when we moved here until, I think I shared with you, until Jerry says, when he hired me, do you have your NHR? And we were like, yeah. But I think losing the NHR is what put it on everybody's front burner. Suddenly people who were not necessarily aware of it became very aware of it. Just like the golden visa, what percent, less than 1% of homes sold were actually through the golden visa? Yeah. So I see I'm going out there, but so these are things that people become aware of when it's taken away.
Yep, absolutely right. And now it's back again, it would appear. And we'll I mean, I doubt if it's high up on the agenda for Portuguese politicians at the moment. They've got bigger fish to fry. They've got bigger bacalhau, to use the more local analogy. And we'll keep an eye on this. We've got Bobby joining us at 9, who I'm sure will have something to say about it. Heather Binder joining us at 9:30 from Boots on the Ground Portugal. Also, I'm sure with a view. Any other news from Expats Portugal? What have we got tomorrow evening, Jackie?
The NHR.
What?
I mean,
that's handy.
So I think they were going to talk more about it, but I think that conversation has really shifted. So
yeah, of course.
The
I'll be
NHR.
talking to the Harry Potter of taxation again tomorrow evening. That's Duarte, isn't it, who's joining us again tomorrow? And the Dream Team session, the ever popular Dream Team session. I'm sure I can't wait actually to talk to Daniel Reis about. He's a great. He's a lawyer, of course, and he has a very keen interest in constitutional law and the machinery of government here in Portugal. So I look forward to talking to him, especially tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. How did the social go last weekend? Conk and Honey were hosting, were they not?
Yeah, it was great. And just a thought on Daniel, I love his analysis. Like he gives an in-depth analysis of how things are really, what people are thinking, and what are the real life implications of any kind of action.
Yeah,
Hank Connie's was great. We had some new faces there, and again, a lot of talk about the NHR. I think once people start to, if you've ever been to one of these Hank and Connie meetups, first of all, they're so wonderful, Hank and Connie, and they're a lot of fun, and people become friends on this. So it's really interesting. A lot of people say, we come to Portugal, we already have a group of friends, and that means a lot. That means a lot.
Yeah, it's great. Really good. So find them at expatsportugal.com/community on the forum there. Make friends. Cheers, Jackie. I'll see you tomorrow evening then. Something weird happened. As soon as you got your coffee, your connection went a little bit like it had a cup of coffee.
I don't know what happened. Sorry about that.
No, not at all. It's fine. I think it's a great service there. Your husband has managed to capture the authentic Portuguese cafe sound in the background there with coffee being made. He needs a steam pipe to blast every now and then, I think.
You can hear him? Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. We thought if I use this, you couldn't hear it.
It's really authentic. It's really authentic. I've got no problem with that at all. It just reminds me of being in a cafe with the gentle clanking of spoons and crockery. And yeah, like I say, he needs a steam pipe in the background and a little bit of Portuguese swearing every now and then. It'll be wonderful. So love to you both and thank you for being here. And I'll see you tomorrow evening.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Ciao,
Bye,
ciao.
Carl.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, expatsportugal.com to find the community that Jackie's talking about there and hang out with the delightful Conk and Honey. We'll bring Bobby on in just a moment. I imagine he's got one or two things to say about the PM's resignation and also about. I really want to get to the bottom of this. Is it, could the IUC go up by 400% or not? Or as somebody said, we had a Portuguese fella jumped on the call last night. For goodness sake, I think it's like, Jesus Christ's sake, it can only go up a maximum of 25 euros for anybody. Well, let's find out if we can. Can anyone do some research for us on that? And we'll include that on the screen this morning as well. I'm talking about the future for if anyone's worried about Antonio Costa and what he's going to be doing in the future. My guess, and as was suggested last night, he may end up with a job in the EU, in the European Commission or European Union as a politician. A former, of course, Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the UN, was a Portuguese PM. So these fellas tend to be okay. We needn't worry about them. I think they're going to be all right in the future as far as having a job goes. I wouldn't be surprised, says Doug, if Costa gets a job at the EU. The EU is made up of political figures who have retired or fell. Not entirely, to be fair. There's one cracking Irish politician I'm seeing, MEP, who seems to speak truth to power from time to time. Then she's not alone in that, is she? But I would say she is one of the exceptions, that's for sure. Japanese restaurant in Mafra is called the Himitsu sushi bar, where you can get some of the best ramen apparently here in Portugal. And I didn't realize this. I mean, these are like really turbulent times we're living in, aren't they? If it ain't one thing, it's another at the moment. Yes, this time the hot water, cold water, and electricity supply are temporarily at risk. So you have municipal hot water, do you? Not local hot water, it would seem, says Baddy, are temporarily at risk in the whole region. This is over in Iceland, along with a whole town of Grindavik. Lots of love and stay safe over there in Iceland, Baddy, and you may be seeking refuge and coming back to Portugal soon. My goodness. Go careful over there and let us know what's happening and let us know you're okay. Essential. Coffee is essential. Good morning, folks. Alison, great to see you at the weekend. Good to see you here this morning. And thank you. If we could give Michael, as soon as Michael got the chance to hold Andy's boom pole, he was in there, like my father used to say, like a rat up a drain pipe. He was great. He was really good at holding the boom, so to speak. I wish our Minister of Finance would have done the same thing last week when he was confronted about his own father buying almost a quarter of the shares on offer in the sale of the bank. Again, allegedly, I don't know if this, I don't doubt you, Buddy, that this is true, but we do have to be a little bit careful with what we're saying about people. But it's just a coincidence, presumably, that the dad bought a load of shares. I'm sure the NHR had nothing to do with our decision to move here, says Andy, reiterating that. And carrying on, Baddy's not happy about that particular finance minister. Instead, he just swapped ministries and is now our foreign affairs minister. Corruption, nepotism, etc. is alive And well, it seems allegedly he didn't quit. He's gone to a different department to make that department sing and swing and fire on all cylinders as well. Good luck in a new position, sir, whoever you are. Yes, municipal hot water. That's a nice idea, isn't it? Municipal hot water from the geothermal energy of Iceland there. And it's a morning from Squire of the Shires. Morning, Squire. Let's give him a nice big round of applause and bring him onto the screen. It's Bobby O'Reilly. Good morning. Top of the morning.
Top of the morning to you.
How are you?
Good.
What do you make of this news, Bobby? Then that came through. Were you surprised? In fact, it was you that told me, wasn't it? We were exchanging WhatsApp messages, and you said, "Have you seen what's going on?" What? And as soon as I saw that, I thought I better get all over this. And we did the webinar last night, which is very interesting. Lots of people tuned in for that. What do you make of it?
I was surprised, to be honest with you. I like most people, had no clue what was going on behind the scenes, but obviously there had been an ongoing investigation and kept very quiet by the looks of it for a long time. And yesterday it all came to a head with the raiding and arresting of some of our esteemed politicians, etc. So I'm a little bit sort of in the dark, except from what we were talking about last night with regards to what happened and what's going on. I don't know all the facts, I suppose, like most people. But I think his position was untenable at that stage, like he said in his speech. And we wait to see what happens later on.
Yeah, certainly not knowing all the facts never stopped me talking about something. So let's see what we can do from that point of view. Let's go to the trusted BBC, shall we? Just, I mean, for instance, I'm not singling them out especially. It's just
it's in English.
It's in English for one thing. Yeah, and there's a picture of the man in question. The reason I'm going here is it tends to be quite short and brief, the coverage. So Portuguese Prime Minister António Costa resigned after investigators searched his official residence in an inquiry into alleged corruption. And there are hundreds of detectives. In another report I was reading, there are hundreds of people working on this, as you say, Bobby, but something has been bubbling behind the scenes with this, hasn't it? And did it occur to you? It's like, wow, this is interesting. There's clearly another leg or pillar of governance in this country that was busy at work, about to pounce as soon as they had the right amount of evidence or whatever. And there's like hundreds of people working on this inquiry. Makes you wonder how he didn't know. He's the prime minister, isn't he? So there's another sort of shadowy part of power here that was doing all of this without him even knowing, or maybe he knew but didn't think it was prominent enough.
I think if you're in America now, people will be calling it deep state, that kind of.
Yeah, right.
Sort.
Yeah. Yes.
So, but yeah, it just goes to show that, nobody is unreachable in Portugal. And I think the history of what happens to politicians that have found to be done wrong here and have been punished for it, and in the fact that one of them especially has gone to jail. Yeah. And it's sort of, if you look at what's happened in America, that they can't imagine one of their ex-presidents going to prison, etc. and so on. And the sort of, how do you say, the backlash of it was you can't send the president to jail. But actually, in most of I suppose the democratic world, if you're found doing wrong, you go to jail in the story,
Yeah.
So, but I don't know what's going to come of this. To be honest with you, I don't know if this is the sort of they found something enough to do an investigation, but like what I've seen also in Ireland, as well as other countries where you have lots and lots of investigations, and in Portugal, where you had an investigation even a couple of years ago, back 2013, 2014. And at the end of the big investigation, after they had stopped the whole process for about a year and a half, the findings were absolutely nothing. There's nothing done wrong, that kind of way. But it's still, it's like I heard one of your listeners yesterday say, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's not always the case. Where you want to create a problem, you can create a lot of smoke, which will lead people on to making up their own minds, regardless of any evidence proven and so on and so forth. So, I have no love for the guy whatsoever, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is another political situation, backed by state actors with regards to, he something may have gone on or whatever it is, and they're using it to create a political situation, which is what politics is about. It's about getting the other guy out of power and getting into power. So I'm not saying there's fire here. I'm not saying there isn't either, but what I would say is that we should wait to see, and it'll probably take a year or a year and a half to figure out what's actually after going on here, and then make up your mind. Because I think we're too quick to jump to, how do you say, to find somebody guilty just because an investigation has, and it's easy to get to that decision as well. But I think I wouldn't like to be him or his family or his followers waking up this morning, not knowing what holds for them this morning. So from a political point of view, I don't think it's a good thing for Portugal at all. The fact that now corruption is sort of being spotlighted on Portugal. And I would say that most foreigners are ignorant to what's going on inside of the Portugal politics. They don't know. Like you said, when you came here, and me too, when I came here, I steered away from trying to get involved with politics, as in understanding what, just tell me what I owe and I pay it, and end the story. I didn't really want to know any more than that.
Yeah.
But then as it started to affect decisions and things that were happening within, my atmosphere, things started to get in front of me that annoyed me and so on. But I don't think it's a good thing for Portugal or any country that your prime minister is brought down due to having to resign because he's been investigated, or corruption allegations, etc., or that 11 other ministers have fallen out of, let's say, their jobs for the same reason over the last, say, 9-10 months. It's not a good sign, and it's not something that I think bodes well for the investors that's looking at Portugal. Like we said before many times, that the one thing that especially the larger structures that are investing will look at is political stability. Yeah. Now, there is something to be said for the fact that if something's gone on, it's not covered over, and it's correct, if you like. You know what I mean? Is in that if, for example, it was allowed to go on just because he is the prime minister, or just because they're in power and so on, that's worse. So the fact that they're not afraid to investigate and arrest and accuse, I think, is also a good thing in the Portuguese system.
Okay, very good. Thank you for your analysis. We'll read a little bit more of that article there. And is it José Socrates that you were referring to, who'd spent some time in prison?
Yes,
because it's interesting, isn't it? The whiff of whatever that is around him has never gone away, has it? It's like, and it feels like it's ongoing still as well. The guy was like in prison for a short time, and I think the investigation and his attempts to clear his name are still ongoing, aren't they? Like some nearly 10 years later, interestingly. And you make a really good point as well about this, how it can be used, how the mere whiff of corruption can be used as a political device to destabilize opponents. Now, that might be going on within a particular country domestically. And as you say, that's not a good look. It doesn't send out the right signals to the rest of the world. So you could accuse, could you not, the Portuguese government of being a little bit insular with this at a time when maybe they've already done enough to shake a global confidence. This isn't going to be helping, is it?
Yeah, but again, if it is a thing where it needs to be called, it needs to be called regardless. Yeah. So you can't ignore it either for the fact that it's not going to look good for optics reasons either. Yeah. So I just hope for the reasons it's done is for the right reasons and not just the political reasons.
And on that basis, in terms of optics, yes, that's how he framed his resignation, wasn't it? A person in my position can't be seen to have these kinds of allegations against him. I resigned immediately, tendered his resignation, and the president accepted it. Okay, let's have a look at a few comments that I'm sure you'll want to respond to as well. And also, I've just been sent, interestingly, I'm sure we'll talk about this as well this morning, a news piece, an opinion piece from IMI that I've never seen before, the IMI Daily. Thanks, Bob, for this. NHR apparently to survive at least another year as Portugal Prime Minister resigns over corruption scandal. So that's interesting too. We'll return to that. We'll read a little bit of that too.
This is propaganda.
Okay, all right.
This is all wish and hopeful sort of thing, if you like, Okay. It's a bit like grasping onto a life buoy at the moment, but I wouldn't hold out too much hope, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, practically, the plans to end it by the end of this year, which some have always said were never going to happen anyway. But if that were the case, that's not likely now, is it? I mean, this is not high. This has gone way down in the political in-tray, hasn't it? the NHR for foreigners.
I don't know, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. It's actually, I think it's what's probably going to come is if an election is called, it's going to become one of the blame, the foreigners sort of bash sort of tools for people to stand on their pedestal to shout loud and clear, because there has been a lot of foreign bashing, if you like, over the last couple of months about the property prices and so on and so forth. And the fact that it's been how do you say, pinpointed to disappear, and people are calling politically for it to stay. And probably for the right reasons, but it's going to be used against them in a sort of political arena to show that, showed wrongly, by the way, that it's not a good thing for Portugal. So I wouldn't hold out well, put it this way, you have it for another while. So if you're interested in getting in the NHR, get in, So if it's a thing that you're not ready to go on now, it's probably not going to be there when you are. So
Yep. Okay. So Bobby's view on the NHR and how this current political scandal and PM's resignation is affecting that. Kathleen's here. You should have joined us last Monday, Kate. We had your old economic nemesis on the screen, Paul Correa, talking about macroeconomics. You two used to clash, as I recall, back in the day. You're with us this morning, letting us know that the increase in car tax is a maximum of €25 a year. That's what I've read. A year for pre-2007 cars, not exactly a major change. The environmental damage they do is more costly, especially diesel cars of that age. Bobby, you seem to be thinking that it could be a lot more than that, and agreeing with Joel last night. Again,
I hadn't read the actual law, but I was a member of an off-roading club, a local club here,
right.
And everyone would have had sort of pre-1990s or Land Rovers, etc., and so on, and cost more money to repair than actually buy, sort of thing. So in other words, they were all 25 plus years old, and the sort of the soundbite that's coming out of that camp is that I'm selling my Jeep because it's just too much money now to sort of, we would call it the road tax, and it had gone up 400%. So a load of guys had put their Jeeps up for sale. So unless everyone else has got it wrong as well, that's how it's been read. So maybe they just read the first half of it and didn't read the rest of it. So I would like to have that sort of quantified and sort of understood better. Because
me too.
I'm a lot of people that are just screaming about this 400% car increase, because considering that most people can't afford rent, afford mortgages, etc., and they wanted to get you to the incentive behind it was to buy a new car. Sort of sounded a bit sort of obtuse to these people,
Yeah,
so I think if it's a €25 thing a year, that should be the first thing they said.
Yeah.
And there's not this whatever brought around this 400%.
And if I may say so, this is one of those typical political situations. This exemplifies the problem of political machinery and response, and how people get very emotional about these things. Unhelpfully, from the get-go, something gets announced. So those who I can see are of an electric disposition, who would be happy to see old diesel bangers go, are saying, calm down, it's only €25. And those petrol heads and gas guzzlers who are kind of anti-electric are saying, this is going to cost me 400% more. It's gone very polar very quickly. Can we please, if someone really knows what they're talking about on this, and I'll do more research later, do let us know what's happening here. This has been co-opted very quickly, it would appear, for particular political agendas. And let's face it, Bobby, most people in this country do drive an old banger, don't they? The culture is of old bangers. People who are on minimum wage are probably not about to invest in a £50,000 electric car to save a little bit of IUC.
Well, they're going to go up a bit now because there's going to be less lithium batteries as well. So because they're lithium. So
spanner in the works from another angle. Okay, all right.
The thing is that maybe they can make the electric cars get cheaper if they remind them more lithium. But I know we also have, like everywhere else, it's not in my backyard syndrome as well. So we need it, but we don't want it to be dug up in our house. So
well, that point was made last night, wasn't it? That with the lithium mining, it wasn't as if Portuguese people again were going to benefit from that. It was foreign companies doing the extraction. It was those others in society that were going to make most money from it. And again, the people driving a diesel old banger facing this IUC increase were probably not going to make much from lithium mining themselves, apart from having their countryside destroyed.
No, but again, policy, European world policies is driving us all towards electric cars.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that there is going to be a situation where people will probably be decentivized to buy older cars and have to buy electric and so on and so forth. And again, the lithium, etc., has to come from somewhere. And where we have an argument in this country, I suppose around the world, is that like, okay, we need it, but we don't want to destroy our countryside or have it going here. But this is, I think there's going to be a lot of around it, probably not in this next election if it happens, but probably the next elections to come, the jobs that comes out of this as well. I was talking to a friend last night that was saying that the amount of jobs that were being created in the Scenish area around this whole industry and this revolution around renewable energies and so on and so forth was huge, and that this was basically just going to crush that. So that hasn't been mentioned in this argument whatsoever. And you're talking about high-paying jobs as well for Portuguese in the Scenish area. Now, I don't have all the facts of it, but this gentleman I was talking to has business interests in the area, nothing to do with lithium batteries or anything, but he has business interests in the area, and he was just saying that it's going to affect that areas. If it affects the jobs that are going on there, this political situation, it could be a disaster. So there's something else behind this.
That's how the PM can make his exit, can't he? He can say, well, I tried to bring prosperity and jobs, and look what they did to me. He's got a perfect exit strategy, hasn't he? I imagine his PR team are working on it as we speak. Amazing. All right. Okay, Bobby, not all the politicians may be reachable, but not a lot of punishment is ever handed out. It tends to be like an ongoing thing, doesn't it? That everyone gets lawyered up, and it takes ages to sort this process
the
out.
One thing is, I don't have any contact with any, say, the higher politicians. Mine's to be very local, if you like. But the one thing that I've come across is that these guys are very protective of how they do business, as in they're very protective of their name, and they're very protective of how would you say, especially maybe I don't know, because we're a pretty new company in Portugal, but like you asked me a long time ago about corruption in Portugal, and I said and I'm here 12 years working for 12 years, and I haven't come across any of it. So I'm probably not at the level where it is, but it's quite astonishing for me, to be honest with you, this whole sort of corruption scandal thing. And people will tell you that it's going on forever, and it's going on forever at the higher echelons of it as well. But from a local point of view, I haven't seen it or witnessed it, to be honest with you.
Very interesting, very interesting. Yeah, it's almost like a sort of standing complaint, isn't it, of Portuguese people? Because I was talking we had a terrific weekend, it has to be said. I was in the other cocktail bar on Sunday night, Dobby, after the one that we were in on Saturday afternoon. And the barman in the cocktail bar would say, yeah, that's the problem with it's a standing kind of moan, isn't it? If you talk to us politically naive people, don't really understand it. You've not experienced it, but you talk to any Portuguese person, they'll just say, oh, yeah, it's so corrupt here, in a way that we can't quite get our heads around. But a story like this, a situation like this, helps us understand it a bit better. William Ogilvy is here this morning. Like button smash. The world is going to hell in a handcart. Oh, come on, cheer up, William. We don't vote for corrupt politicians. They corrupt themselves. Well, there's some truth in that. See you back here soon. Whilst the world might be going to hell in a handcart, I think he's coming here in his diesel vehicle. Be careful. See if you can buy your tax up front. Of 2 Bom dia todos. What's this? Oh, this is a second message of 2, perhaps. Not sure I saw the earlier one here, Michael, but maybe help me out with that. Apart from the politics, there's a bunch of mining in other countries that most don't understand. The way Portugal can make lots. We'll come to the other part. Oh, this is one of 2, I think. The way they can make lots of money. Oh, is mineral rights, says Michael. and that is always a poker game. So should the government be gambling with public money in that way? Thank you very much, Kate, for your continued contributions this morning. I've been reading about government corruption in the quality Portuguese press for months. There are allegations Costa dating back to his tenure in Lisbon city government. So there you go. It just got too much yesterday after years, by the sound of it, of this kind of whiff around him. The PM's resignation, you say, is a huge problem given the late stage of negotiations with the doctors' union, the teachers, and many other government employees. And the most cynical among us, right, Bobby, might say, well, that's convenient, isn't it?
I think the last time there was I think it was the TAP situation when Marcelo was expected to bring the government down and didn't. And the reason he didn't was because of the inability of the Portuguese government at the time to basically draw down the money from the European Union that was going to pay for the teachers, the COVID recovery. There was billions of euros that had to come down, and he knew that if he brought it down, that was going to be disaster on the Portuguese economy because of they didn't have enough money to pay everybody and pay things and pay for the programs that they had put in their previous budgets. And I think that's his conundrum also today. I still don't think they've quite significantly drawn down enough money from the European Union what they needed. And as you see, they're calling everybody to I think it's Belém today. I think it's today. To talk to everybody, and I don't know that they'll have an election. I think they might try to appoint a new prime minister because of the similar reasons, because the instability, the political instability and inability to actually function between now and probably call an area election next year, maybe, or something like this. I think the right thing for what probably be found is that the right thing for the Portuguese country and on the whole is that we don't go into an immediate election, because they need to be represented at a European level for what's required from the social, not just the social, but from a working's point of view here, monetary wise.
Okay, so you don't think there's going to be an election called, and we'll find out more tomorrow, won't we? I think Thursday is when the resigning PM will make an address and a statement about the situation and look at a way forward out of this. And they apparently sold a whole load of lithium mining rights a decade ago. So that's all in process, according to Pete. The reality is he is in charge still. That's true. Even if he is not directly guilty, he should have had some control on his government. And the PM's resignation is a huge problem. Yeah, I think we already read that. But that's true, Kate. Thank you for that. Gary Austin with a typically, is this a sanguine or world-weary comment here? Hey, corruption is global, fellas. One of my favorite sayings, where there is chaos, there is profit. Is that as a sort of cynical political observer, or is that how you operate yourself? Portuguese there, at least the Portuguese government take action. The COVID inquiry in the UK shows that you can get away with blue murder and are promoted due to incompetence. Well, time will tell, Pete, on that, won't it? And we need to remember that this country, thank you for being here as well this morning, Veronica from the Algarve. How are you this morning? Is relatively a new to, by the way. Say again.
I have Veronica's coat in the back of my car. She gave it to one of the guys in Tomar. And we drove home with her coat in the back of the car. So tell her it's still there.
I hear you rapidly explaining that comment. I've got your coat in the back of my car.
It was actually Pedro.
I think it was actually me who organised that. Yes, your coat got lost, not at the last Discovery weekend, but
the one before,
the previous booze up.
And I brought it with us this time. I forgot to give it to you. So
yeah, okay. And the ransom payments are going up daily. So, yeah, it's well though. It's alive and well in Aroera somewhere. Your coat there, Veronica. Thank you for that little bit of housekeeping there, Bobby. Portugal's re-democratization process started with the Carnation Revolution of 1974. And yeah, that's interesting you should mention that, because of course we have a PM resignation in year 49 since the Carnation Revolution. And we're going into, it's November now. We are going into the year of the 50th anniversary. What a year. What a set of circumstances to be going into the 50th anniversary of the Carnation Revolution. I wonder how Senor Costa will be celebrating that. Imagine he would be thinking he was, on some podium saying how great it is, democracy. He still might. Let's see. What do you think of that, Bobby?
Everyone's going to jump on it next year. We had this very similar because we had ours in years of independence in Ireland in 22. Well, last year, but every politician jumped on it. Every group jumped on it at the time and said that they were responsible and they were the ones behind it and the ones that brought it on. And to be honest with you, at the time it was a sort of if you went back 100 years before, none of them were around, by the way. And but how do you say, the political, how do you say, the way things were completely different how it's been sold 100 years later. Now we're 50 years on from the Portuguese Carnation Revolution, which I think sometimes I find it difficult to call it a revolution. I think it was a change of legal situation, because it wasn't a revolution in the sense of an actual insurrection or an armed group against another armed group. It was like there was a demonstration and the politicians got scared and ran away, and the army found themselves in a we've got the keys of the castle. So,
yes,
yeah. So we like to call it a revolution. Now, I don't want to be obtuse as a foreigner coming in here and not calling it a revolution. I think it's basically been branded as a revolution, and it was a change in 1974. But I know there was soldiers on the streets, etc., and so on and so forth. But there was nobody put up against the wall and shot, or there was no one like you see in other revolutions. Like say if you take what happened in Warsaw or what happened in Poland, etc., as well.
France, for example.
Well, that's a little further back.
Yes, but, I remember it well.
But not to take away from it, but I think yes, definitely a change in the political spheres. And it's whether it's to be celebrated with what's going on at the moment as a win for democracy, because you see what's happening, or capitalism or socialism, or I think it's how to say optimism or anything else.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you preface that comment, I think, with like, we're foreigners, what do we know? We didn't live through it. But we can't help that, can we? I mean, we're interested in this and we have a view according to our experience of it, which is not very much. So we're well open to be educated on this.
I read it up. I went through it, and actually I went on YouTube, and there was a great history of actually what happened in 1974 and where the revolution came about and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And a lot of it came out of the colonial wars and so on and so forth. And how would you say, the people protesting against the starving soldiers in Africa.
Yeah.
So I can see why it happened, and it was a great movement that happened. So anyway, I don't want to go too far
again,
off.
it's a bit like, how if you talk to Portuguese Persians, corruption, it's everywhere, in a way that like, well, I don't disbelieve people saying that, but it's not my everyday reality because I am a foreigner and I have a political age of a 10-year-old. That's going on. And it's the same with the Carnation Revolution. I was talking to somebody the other day, said, "Oh yeah, Carnation Revolution." Sort of shrug of the shoulders. It's like, we know what happened in France, and we know bullets are normally involved in revolutions. What did we do? Flowers. And I was like, when I first got here, I was thinking, that's
nice revolution.
Yeah, that's really great. But this guy was like, yeah, what sort of revolution did we have? Flowers. As though it were, a criticism of the
situation. It was a political revolution, I suppose, more than anything else. That kind of way. I suppose we view the word revolution as Che Guevara and so on and so forth. That kind of way. That's sort of mentality of it. But I suppose to have a revolution without firing a shot, it's probably one of the best kind of revolutions you can have when you think of it.
That's how I've seen it. That's how I've always seen it, and willing to be educated on this. And next year is the year, of course, with the 50th anniversary. This is a sort of comment you get when sometimes coming up. At least you knew you were with us. He's joking.
But a lot of people will say that as well.
They do, don't they? That's the thing. We did have a little
in the hands of the victor.
Last April, we hosted a webinar, people reflecting on 49 years, and a guy came on and said, in many ways things were better. You could trust people. You knew who you were. You knew where you were. And it was fascinating. And there'll be more of that next year. Antonio F. Bom dia todos from Antonio, who I'm sure has things to say about today's or yesterday's resignation of the PM and our reactions to it today, and what it means for us foreigners. Just to clarify, our former finance minister, this is back to Iceland for a moment, only swapped ministries after the formal investigation was concluded and he was deemed compromised, not when the formal investigation starts. Interesting. We've got T-Duck saying, if you're innocent, you fight to clear your name. If you're guilty, you resign. Is that a general sort of rule of thumb in politics or in public life? Thank you for that, T-Duck. Also, says Kate, and we'll bring Heather on to join us. Last time we were all together, it was in a bar, and she was in full steampunk mode. It's a little bit different this morning, but we'll bring her on to comment on this in a moment too. Also, the industries that are cited in the corruption investigation are crucial to the future of the Portuguese economy, i.e. lithium mining for modern battery production and green hydrogen. I wondered how long it was going to be until hydrogen got mentioned. It's good, says Veronica. Putting this in, but I don't think this comment will leave the room unscathed. It's good that Portugal is still part of the EU. You've got people again. You talk to Portuguese people about that, and they'll have a different view. Some of them, won't they, about the EU, and think that the Brits did a really good thing.
Well, not too many that I know, but I think that I think that maybe comes out of not understanding. If you look at, if you could have another vote now and a real, let's say, honest vote within the UK about Brexit and say, was it the right thing? For me, Brexit was a revolution vote against.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
that's it, and they've paid dearly for it, and they will be paying dearly for it for a long, long time. And I'd like to see anyone who comes up and says to me that Brexit was a great idea. Thank God we got our independence back and what have you. Yeah. And I think it was the worst thing that's happened to them politically since joining the EU.
a very costly act of pride, I suppose, would be another way of reframing.
Stupidity, I think, more so than and arrogance.
Yes, let's give her a
nice. We don't need you guys. Kind of
yeah,
we'll pick our own fruit and our own vegetables. Yeah,
as the water is washing over your feet, like King Canute. Okay, let's just press that applause button and bring onto the stage Heather. It's not actually loads of people.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Heather.
Hi, Heather.
Hi. Hello. See, it was more fun last time. We had steampunk, we had drinks, but we're going to have that much fun this morning, right?
It's true. I've got a picture somewhere in your full-on steampunk regalia with Evil Kevin as well. Maybe we should explain. Evil Kevin, your fiance. Can you explain to us just briefly how it was that you were dressed in the way that you were, whilst I find the photograph of it?
Sure. Well, I went to. Oops. Let me just. There we go. I went to the luncheon that you had. The what do we call that?
Well, we had the filming in the afternoon. We had the Discovery Weekend filming in the afternoon, and then you joined us for the evening session, didn't you?
Right, but a couple weeks ago, when I met, I went to Storyteller's Palace, which is gorgeous in San Martino de Porto. Went to a delicious lunch and got to tour the bar downstairs, which is the speakeasy called the Gatsby. And I was, first of all, in love with the hotel. And then Marco, the owner, was really cool. Everyone was super nice. And I love architecture and I love antiques and history and all that kind of stuff, even though, don't test me on any of it because history is not my best subject. But anyways, I love buildings, of course. Real estate's my background. And I just love that place. And I just felt like I felt like his steampunk, early 19th century sort of look just fit in there so well, because the building is from that era. And even though the downstairs, the Gatsby is not that old, it's remodeled, so it doesn't have that. But it just felt, I don't know, it just felt like steampunk would work really well there, and I would be comfortable. And then I have a great top hat, and I needed to wear it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the picture at the moment. So I think it's safe to say we had a cracking weekend there.
It was fun.
We've certainly got a picture of Bobby finding the bar. Look, I found it. I'm going
there you
in.
Go.
Yeah, there you go. And it's a picture of all four of us, actually.
I posted. Oh, yeah, there is a good one of all four of us. I posted the one of Kevin and I to that thread on the school thing on the GMP. Yeah. So that's there somewhere. You'll find it.
I shall find it. Now, do you dress up like that often, if I may ask that question?
I wouldn't say often, but we do like to do things like Comic-Cons and, just that kind of gaming and sci-fi and just that whole thing. Like a lot of people that do stuff kind of do it all together. We do the medieval reenactment stuff. We do the SCA is what it's called as far as the medieval stuff that we like. Society for Creative Anachronism. Society for Creative Anachronism is SCA. Okay. And it's worldwide, actually, but there is not a presence exactly in Portugal. There is in Europe, but more the events tend to happen primarily in like Sweden. I've been to an event in Sweden and all over Europe, and
it sounds like
England,
you're flying the flag for that here and creating new opportunities for anybody else who wants to dress like this at the weekend or any other time of year. So there's Evil Kevin.
Or just dress up, period. Yeah, we didn't also dress for Halloween or anything. So this was kind of our moment to get to do that.
You cut a dash in the Gatsby bar and a great time was had by all. So, looking forward to future events and other costumes. So do send our best to Evil Kevin. He's not really evil. It's just what he calls himself when he's in costume.
Yeah, that's a nickname he got from the medieval group because he does combat fighting. And so he got that for fighting prowess is where that nickname came from. He's not really evil.
Okay, so what do you make of this situation? Already Portuguese people are showing their sense of humor. Antonio Costa has left the group, which is something I'm going around on social media. What do you make of this, Heather? You're working with people, helping them come to Portugal. This must have caused a bit of a ruffle within your environment and your community.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks have been kind of hellish is a good word with all of that going on. And so, yeah, I'm really happy to see the Prime Minister gone. The minute he said a lot of stupid things, I was, done with him, which is far before he said anything about injustice and NHR. But needless to say, I from my understanding and articles I'm reading, right, this is going to put the NHR going bye-bye on the back burner, really, out of the legislation, at least for another year, is what we're hearing. And I sure hope that is the case, which would be amazing because I have a ton of people that are, mid-process. We're doing visas for them, helping them with all of that and just all those things. Velma. Totally thought about doing Velma before, but I haven't actually done Velma. Sorry.
Oh, you're
responding to a comment.
Stop it. That's my job. You really threw me there. What?
I know.
Velma?
Okay.
All right. So, Bobby, did you want to come back in on that? Because this is, you were calling it propaganda before, weren't you? These opinion pieces now about the NHR. I mean, practically, from a practical point of view, I don't think the political machinery is going to be in any fit state to process this. But what is your view on that, Bobby? What would you dare give it a timeline?
I would say probably March.
We'll see.
March of next year. All right.
Sometime, and we'll see. It's all a guess. It was a guess to begin with, and
it's you can make your predictions, and everyone's going to make predictions and whatever it is. But make no mistake, it will go. But it's like I said, it's probably got a couple of more months in it because now of the issues that the government have.
Right.
But it's going to become again another sort of political football on a re-election point as well, if it's not gone before it. So I think they'll look to get rid of it first, so it doesn't become part of that political football later on. So it's still there, but it's on I wouldn't say it's on sturdy legs.
It's been deprioritized, doesn't it, for the time being? Yeah. Okay, we've got lots of comments, so jump in, you two, as and when you want to respond to these, because we are talking about the IUC, the tax on vehicles, as well as the PM's resignation, and probably other things as well, including Velma. Also, the Wiltmer, is it? The industries that are cited in the corruption investigation are crucial to the future of the Portuguese economy. We read that before, but it's an important comment, not so fresh in my immediate vicinity, but mildly moist in the surroundings. I'm not sure if that's a weather report or a psychological analysis there. Love our Land Rover, says Squire of the Shires. There are a lot of people with these old vehicles that are facing getting rid of them, as Bobby was saying. But
that's terrible.
Not happy about it. Increase in IUC is to motivate the people to buy new cars. It's a market strategy. He's also the happy owner and a lover of a Range Rover or Land Rover vehicle.
But just
go on, Bobby. Yeah.
just on if they wanted to incentivize people to buy cars in Portugal, they should actually bring them to the same price within the open market, within the EU laws that are actually out there, that Portugal is breaking all the time and paying penalties on just so they can overcharge us for cars.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. Like Portugal tends to want to change things or say they want to change things, but then they go about it like the dumbest ways possible in so many instances that I'm seeing. I mean, like NHR is a perfect example, like if you want to create affordable housing, like we've said before, how about you finish all these 8 million things under construction that are in some version of legal chaos or whatever it is, that are just sitting there all around town. I'm like, you need more housing. How about you finish what's right in front of you instead of trying to actually do things that are going to hurt the economy in other ways? And Bobby's point, exactly. There's so many ways to incentivize people instead of hitting people up that either have classic vehicles or don't have the money to go buy a new vehicle, something like that. Do something that actually, give a rebate, tax wise. Like there's so many more.
Do you know what? I'm feeling like I'm at the Emperor's new clothes parade here, and both of you are the little kids saying, if you want affordable housing, why not just finish some houses and build some, and then if you want affordable cars, make them cheaper. It's like, oh yeah,
just go right to the point.
If you drive any sort of back road anywhere at the moment between towns, you will find a field or a thing under a bridge where there's 500 cars
what happened there?
Had been imported from Germany.
Different route there.
And
Bobby, you disappeared halfway through that comment. Yeah, a field of 500 cars. I've not seen that.
Yeah, no. There's you go say between Aroeira and Sesimbra, for example.
Yeah.
Every couple of meters you have a car lot. Cars.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And all of them, I would say nearly all of them are imports from Germany. And because of the rules that they can get around, if you go buy an import that's over 6 months old and secondhand, and even it has a hybrid, blah 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 blah, you don't have to pay such and such a tax. But their competition are the high-priced cars in Portugal that are being sold in the Nissan garages and the whatever garages, and so I would say that probably 50% of the cars that are being driven in Portugal, well, especially around Lisbon, are imports from Germany that were secondhand imports. Go on OLX or any of those car buying things, you will see the most cars that are for sale are imports. And the reason for it is that they're getting around the taxes to a point. They're buying the type of car that will mitigate against the tax on the import, bringing the car into Portugal. And it just doesn't make sense to me that they wouldn't look at the numbers with regards to what's been sold versus what's been imported and corrected that actually it doesn't make sense to import it because you can buy it here for the same price.
Yeah, and this is how the Portuguese culture works, so to some extent, doesn't it? If there's a problem, people get busy figuring out ways around it, rather than, as you were pointing out before, I think it's just
in everything.
Yeah.
In everything,
They make a rule and then let's say, okay, let's see how do we circumvent that, kind of way. And then they'll get around that, and then they'll change it again. Then they'll see how we circumvent that. And it's
a brilliant thing. It's national ingenuity, isn't it? And the more you live here, you realize that that's how things tend to work. Okay, we've got a stack of comments.
I think it's just such a negative, way to live. There's this stuck mentality of negativity and short-sightedness, really short-sightedness, and it's strange. I think that's the hardest thing for me to adjust to here.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for that. We've got a stack of comments. Let's work our way through them. There are far more electric cars around than there were before in our area, says Pete. A shame as my chargers are full, but far better for the environment, faster and more fun. Yeah, there's a supply problem, isn't there, on the charging as we get more EVs, who are the future, says Andy here. But the amount of cars needed to replace the global fleet means the emissions from mining and manufacturing would be greater than burning fuel in cars. Oh,
exactly.
Okay. How, says Pete, the manufacture of most EVs is in a modern factory where standards are far higher, as you can see from the build quality of your. Okay, so it's getting personal there. I do know that it's a maximum €25 a year, and only for pre-2007 cars. That's cars over 16 years old. If you want to know the facts around here, listen to the news in Portuguese. That sounds like a little bit of a telling off from Kate. Fair point. A car, for example, that has its license stamped in 95, for example, will only have an increase of 400% minimum for a 1 litre displacement. On the next 3 or 4 years, that only €25 increase was just related to the 2024 taxation plan. That would not be the norm if they decided to do the other increase in 25. Well, that makes it a whole lot clearer. Thank you for that, Facebook.
That's the other thing. The way that the math is done, and not just math, but like the logic, it's like let's find the most confusing way to calculate. I mean, the taxes are just unbelievable. Let's just find the most convoluted, let's make it worse than the United States, just tax wise. Just make it so convoluted that you talk to 6 accountants, not let alone people, 6 accountants, and they can't even agree on anything. So I mean, it's just a perfect example of going about things in a really weird way. I'll just call it weird.
You were careful with your words. This feels like it's turning into a bit of a boots on the ground Portugal therapy session here, Heather, this morning.
Well, 28 years in real estate and now working with visa consulting and all that. I am definitely part, emotional support, at least I will say. I'm not a therapist for sure, but definitely, having done the stuff yourself, I think that's a big aspect that people miss, is that, by us being immigrants ourselves, we can commiserate, we can understand from a different perspective. And I think that's important.
Yeah, well said. Most people have no idea about the cost to develop a mine. That's a fair comment, isn't it? I know I don't.
A lot. I don't know.
Mines in Portugal are operated by true Portuguese companies. They're all foreign miners with legal entities. That's another thing Portuguese people rightly moan about. It's like the algae, the seaweed here that gets harvested by skillful Portuguese divers here in the bay, and they've done it for years, and their dads and their granddads did it, and then it all gets taken to Spain, sadly, because a Spanish company bought it up years ago, apparently. Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, my GNR guys that are my neighbors. They do my gardening.
GNR guys.
Yes.
What?
And they also do that diving where they dive for the algae for the skincare company or whatever.
It's amazing. Right, Heather, I'm going to have to ask you not to respond to every single comment now, because we've got a stack here. And let's group a few together.
That's Carl's nice way to tell me to be quiet.
Yeah, Bobby might like to add something as well. Most mining companies worldwide are British and Canadian, and I think Michael's worked for a few of those. Look at this. This is a grumpy old British comment. You can summarize this current political situation in one word. Typical. All right, okay. I think a little bit of electric versus fossil fuel ding-dong is going on as well. Tesla is not exactly a standard term in terms of car manufacturing quality. Lots of news detailing incredibly bad finishes in manufacturing. Okay, let's stand by for Pete's response to that. Joel, who was here last night, who started the furore of the road tax with us last night. Car that is license stamp 95, for example, will have a 400% minimum increase for a 1 litre displacement on the next 3 or 4 years. The only €25 increase was just related to the 2024 taxation plan. Thank you. Some clarity possibly there. Cheers, Joel. Yep, 5 litre straight diesel all the way, Carl, unashamedly so. And to make sure I get the benefit, I'm driving my Mercedes Vario all the way. Look at that. That's an old petrol head talking there, or a diesel head. The old story, tax the poorest in society. Well, that's true. You can't. There's no way of dressing that up. Is that is what's going on with that? It is being reported in the press that secret and unregistered illegal meetings between EU officials and automotive lobbyists, that planned environmental legislation is being altered. Corruption. I can't believe it, Gary. Only foreign companies have the expertise to do pioneering green hydrogen projects and low impact mining of crucial minerals. It's also EU law that such big investments have to be put out to tender. By Randy, let's hear some other voices as well this morning. Carl would take a bung to grease the GMP wheels. Well, he's put me on the spot there. We're all in this society, aren't we? I think, it's fair enough, isn't it? I guess it's your level of influence and corruption, isn't it, that we're talking about here? Everyone's, I guess, is viable in their own way. It's the system in which we swim and live. Kate and Pete still going, and Veronica. Oh yeah, this goes back a long way. This goes back to the coat. Can we, you know, those sometimes there are those YouTube channels or Instagrams where you've got a little like a cuddly toy that's photographed around the world. Can we have Veronica's coat photographed in various
on various people?
on various people. Great idea. Excellent. But that was ages ago. Squire of the Shires. Oil and fossil fuels are the backbone of many still rising countries' economies, providing many jobs and social benefits to its citizens, also used in many other products we consume daily. A defense of the old fossil fuels there. And your own comment here, Heather, look, at 9:30, going back 20 minutes. Good morning to you. Pete and Kate, I think, need to get an EV room by the look of their comments. Good morning, everybody. João Ferreira, I think he's an old petrol head. It's not meant to be polarizing into the EVs versus the petrol heads here this morning. We're talking about the resignation of the PM. Although I'm working, says João F. He says here in this comment, I decided to show up just for half an hour to put some order on the table, as you say in Portugal. Thank God you're here, quite frankly, this morning. And Gary, hello, fellow troglodytes. I think he's talking about man cavers, not petrol car drivers, although they are possibly interchangeable. It seems the EU funds more of the bigger projects in Portugal than the government. There can't be a lot of public tax money left after paying all the salaries in those halls. That's a very Portuguese comment there.
And I just say a lot of people that are in the halls of power are working from home.
That's so confusing. I'm walking the halls of power from my spare room at the moment. Well, yes, Heather. I think. Sorry, I'm reading a lot of comments, and now you're not going to speak at all. Heather, what have you seen so far that you'd like to respond to there?
Oh, well, T-Duck said that Bobby and I are two of his favorite guests. And I thought that was sweet. Thank you.
Good. However, not so much for Andy, possibly. Wash your mouth out, Bobby. They'd be missing out on that extra 25% car sales tax. I think you can take that on the chin. That is exactly what's going on, of course, isn't it?
Yeah.
With that.
But I still think that the maths, if they actually work out what they're losing on sales, because of the fact that they have that 25%. This is where it sometimes doesn't make sense to me, in the sense that seriously, I don't know, maybe it's not the same up where you are. Everyone's buying from the local garage guy or whatever it is, you know. But down where I am, I see where there's car lot after car lot after car lot with all just imported cars. And for me, and I was talking to one guy and he was telling me that he sells, I think, 25 to 30 cars a week that are imports. That's just one. So that's they're not getting their 25% tax on that. They are getting import tax, but obviously their car is much cheaper because and they're taking a less rebate on that. So I'm just saying that they need to do a sort of a leveling out to understand the volume of imports versus the regular car sales, if you like, to see where it is, and maybe they could adjust that tax to incentivize people to buy more inside. It's a bit, sorry to sort of jump in, but you have a border with Spain, and you have people who drive across the border to put in diesel or petrol or whatever it might be. And the closer further into Spain you go, the cheaper it gets. Now, it used to be that. I don't know if it's the same anymore. But they're putting the taxes in the Spanish pockets. They're not putting the taxes in the Portuguese pockets anymore. It's the same when it comes to these cars. So they think they're doing themselves a favor by buying cheaper, but they're not. They're actually taking money out of the country. So, and the same happened in Northern Ireland when we had the border with Northern Ireland with regards to you could buy stuff much cheaper in the north than you could in the south. And what you had, all the towns on the south of Ireland, on the border of Northern Ireland, all the supermarkets were closing down, etc., because people were going across the border to buy stuff because they could buy it cheaper. But at the same time, they were putting themselves out of jobs because they were working in the shops that they were now not shopping in.
Oh, yeah, shot in the foot. Okay,
exactly.
I can understand that.
That's what we do. That's what they're doing here. They're shooting themselves in the foot to a degree. So you need to make sure people don't go across the border to buy what they're buying. In other words, that they're taking the money out of the country, and that's what they're doing. And that's by having this silly extra VRT tax, as we'd call it, vehicle registration tax. I don't know what they call it in Portugal, but it's incentivizing people to buy cars in Germany. Now, I know most of them come from Germany or whatever it might be, but they're actually taking money out of the country.
But don't we see a pattern here?
Yeah, we do.
We see a pattern. It's the same concept with, reducing people coming in here. It's like, oh, that's going to be so great. And it's like, you're losing millions, like huge amounts of money. And that's the short-sightedness right there. And what Bobby's saying, perfect example with the cars and 100%. So there's I don't know why this is so hard for people to get a bigger view of, but
yeah, well said.
a lot
You
could
will
be
both
improved.
get a chance to sum up this morning. We're going into the last few comments, and then, of course, you'll get a moment to sum up the current situation, what you make of it, and what you think the future is, Heather and Bobby, for foreigners in this country as a result of the PM's resignation. Some great comments this morning. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Carl, you will even find someone demanding the return of the monarchy. That's me. So every opinion is found here. That's in Portugal, I think, if not necessarily on the GMP. Can't see, hear, taste it, or feel it until it's too late. Electricity must have seemed like a witchcraft to people who had been gaslighting and cooking. Yeah, we've got a different sort of gaslighting these days, haven't we? Oops, the EU. What comment wasn't meant against GB? It's fine. You can say that to others too. Just that the country has the power of the EU to help or lead if needed for those of us who invested in this country. Thank you, Joao F. You've got some great comments about the PM who's just resigned. Let's find those. He's a sort of smart sort of guy, you're saying here. Costa, the present future ex Prime Minister, of course, is a sort of smart guy. He's like a cat. No matter how many turns he makes during the fall, he always seems to end up landing on his feet. And I imagine, yeah, Costa is that an anagram of Osh cat? I think, isn't it? The cat, perhaps. I bought a Kia here and I moved and I love it. But the BMW shipped from the USA, they wanted 17,000 euros to matriculate. Painful for me. And I lost so much money, but I think it's doing the research first. Lessons. Thank you for sharing that. Carl hides here as well. They could reduce VAT on new car sales if they really wanted to help people make the move to a new vehicle, but they don't. Not really. Another they're veiled. It's not very veiled at all, is it? Another criticism of policy. Michael Whitby agreeing with you there, Bobby. It's so important to have a certified tax advisor who is at the top of his field in the country you came from, as well as keep your CPA from your home country for taxes on both. Yeah, professional advice, very important. I see lots of unregistered British cars still driven after years on the roads here. You will. It's illegal, but you will. The old saying, BS baffles brains, come to mind when dealing with the issues of taxation. I think that's a fair comment as well. Many tax advisors, going back to what you said, Heather, don't agree here because they're just trying out the new nationalities. Amazing. Really good show today. There you go. There's that comment. Really good show today. Two of my favorite guests. Smash that like button. And due to reports of corruption, says Antonio F., in the Portuguese consulate in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the Portuguese criminal police, the PJ, made 5 house consular searches in Brazil even. Is that the same reports of corruption and allegations here as well? That's amazing, isn't it? Honestly, a low-key car for touring around Portugal is a good option, keeps you from being a target anywhere, and when you get all the dings from small parking spaces, then you don't care. That's an interesting strategy. Carl the Bung lol, just talking bungy. And at this moment, I would really like to appreciate my sponsors and GMP VIP supporters. Thank you. Love you all. Everyone's special here, but the people who give the show money are really special. It's me, Carl the Bung Munson. It's all very well for some owners to wax lyrical about EV ownership. Lots of people simply cannot afford to buy an EV, and in many areas is simply not practical. Well, this has. People are enjoying Bung Munson a little bit too, but I'm going to take that as a command. Okay, do what he says. Bung Munson.
Okay, Bung. Let's be a nickname. Bung.
Bung Noit. And let's do it. My huge one. Okay, this is about the coat. So the coat can go traveling and be photographed in other countries. I can't get to all the comments because we've got dad jokes to do. And you're not escaping the dad jokes, but you guys, can we have your summing up, please? Have we got a barefoot broadcast this morning? Oh, yikes. Okay. Very quickly then, Heather, please, if you will, sum up. What's this going to mean for foreigners, immigrants, and extranjeros here in Portugal?
I just want to say take it in the bung, because that's my new favorite thing from today. I'm going to leave it there. Take it in the bung. Yeah, and we don't have an answer to that question anyways. Who the hell knows?
All right, Bobby can't speak after hearing that. Where should we take it, Bobby?
No, I just think it's not going to be. It'll be a non-issue for foreigners. To be honest with you, I think it's more of an issue for Portugal on the whole, if you like, with regards to its own issues that it has on the lower end of it, with regards to affordability, salaries, the mess of tax, etc., and so on and so forth. But with regards to the foreigners coming to Portugal, you still, like we said, it's the 80-20. You still get everything else. And if you're like what happened to me, maybe for the first 5 or 6 years, I didn't know what was going on politically. I hadn't a clue what was going on. And I think most people, when they come here, especially if they're coming from the States, is they don't want to know. They don't care. So they're just going to settle in, keep their head down, do their own thing. So I don't think it's going to have really any effect to the expat community that's here, or that's looking here, or that's coming here. And next year we'll have a different crisis to talk about, and the year after that will be another, and then the year after that will be another. There's always been.
So true. And finish your drinks, please, everybody. We have to go. Sorry to cut you short there, everyone, but skinny jeans and fat jeans don't mix very well. First of our dad jokes this morning. Issuing pepper spray to police officers will certainly lead to more seasoned criminals. That's good. Come on. And this is brilliant, because this takes us back to the weekend, doesn't it? What doesn't kill you at least makes you fun at parties. Take care. Bye for now. Big round of applause. We got to go. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.